This is Leisha Holmes, and I'm your host on the Recruiters Recruitment Podcast, brought to you by Hoxo Media. And today I am beyond excited because we are recording all the way to United States of America. I am so thrilled to welcome to you today a formidable lady once you get to know her. This is Delphine Carter, who is the CEO of Boulo Solutions. And I have to say, your offices, for those who are watching, look absolutely phenomenal. Welcome to you today, Delphine. How are you?
I am great. I'm so excited to be to join you. You've had just a ton of great guests when I was looking through your series.
Yeah, we have. We're very, very privileged to be in this position where we've interviewed, and I've interviewed some of the most incredible leaders across the globe. And what's really exciting for me as the host is that I'm getting more and more people from across the channel, which yourself included. You're coming from, is it Birmingham, Alabama?
It is. Again, I love how you say it versus me saying it Birmingham. I like Birmingham. But yeah, that's where we're based. We're a national company, but this is our home base.
Oh, it's wonderful. And to those who know me from old, my first recruitment job was in Birmingham in England. So shout out to all the West Midlands folk who I know still follow the channel. So for those who are not yet familiar with your brand, and I'm sure they'll all be clicking on LinkedIn once they watch this episode, tell us a little bit about your business and yourself. How have you come to be in this position?
Yeah. So Boulo Solutions, our entire purpose is to help women stay in and return to the workforce. And we do that by matching them today with flexible job opportunities. It could be contract, it could be project or part-time and full-time permanent positions. And then we help guide them. Our dream is that we will start building the platform out once we get this kind of layered in and get this down pat. And we'll be able to offer career pathing so that women can get guidance on exactly where they need to go in their careers and what it'll take to get there. We all know that women are not fabulous about asking for a raise. And so we want to be able to be the wind at their back and tell them, hey, most people are getting paid this. How about you just go ask? Or, you just need one extra certification or one extra project under your belt, go get it. And so Boulo started because I have been in technology, cloud-based technology, apps and web apps for over 12 years. And I was constantly launching new projects. And I would look around and I would try to find people to come help me with copywriting or run the project or something. But when I would go to my people team, the recruiters, I kind of got the same faces over and over again. It was the same resume over and over again, and it just wasn't fitting. And then on the weekends, I'd go to the ball field. So I'd go to the soccer field to watch my kids. And the mom the professional that I needed was sitting right next to me, but it was a mom. And she was lamenting that she couldn't get back into the workforce. And so I was like, this is ridiculous. Why is this happening? And started doing research and realized that if you've got a nonlinear career, meaning you didn't come out of college in marketing and just keep going and keep progressing in marketing, then it's tougher for you to surface on LinkedIn, Indeed, and ZipRecruiter. And really any of these algorithm-based tools that recruiters are using these days. And so we knew we needed to, one, fix it so that women would surface, even if they had nonlinear backgrounds, and two, give them options for staying in the workforce instead of feeling like they had to split these lives of the personal and the professional.
Oh, here. I mean, why should women have to make a choice at all? Why can't we have a successful career without compromising our roles as mothers?
That's it. And so I think COVID has made people realize, even for males, that our personal and professional lives are inextricably linked.
Yes.
There is no separating them. No. We now see cats walking across our keyboards and you see the drawings of everybody behind you. And so I think that was really a great moment. And if we can capitalize on that and make sure that companies continue to realize that, even if we come back into the office, we can see some great change.
This is definitely the time for change. And I think that, what you're doing is just absolutely phenomenal. And it's been long awaited. I agree with you. And even, I think it's regardless of which country you're listening to this podcast in, you can look around your round table in your boardroom and how many females are there, and the ones that are there, have they had to compromise at some point in their parenting or their career? So that's where I think this conversation for me is so important, because whether you're listening to this as, regardless of gender, regardless of where you sit, we all have a responsibility to make options available for those returning to work after becoming parents. It's as simple as that. And I think I applaud you on what your business does. So let's just put some context around it though. So in terms of supporting women on their trajectory to whatever level they want to achieve, but let's say
Correct.
C-suite.
They define it.
Yeah, they define it. We're not defining it for them. Why do you think there is still a gender gap? What are the fundamental sort of barriers stopping them? Let's put some key criteria there.
3 things that studies have shown. So one, it's lack of flexible job opportunities. So once you do become a parent, there's just that push and pull struggle. Once you leave the workforce, you get you lose about 30% of your pay when you come back. So that's not helping the pay gap. That exacerbates it. 2 is lacking access to projects and to career progression that a lot of males get. And the difference there is if you do become a parent and you pull out, or you become when you become a parent, basically people think she may not be able to handle it. And it's not that it's a conscious verbalized thing. It's typically an unconscious bias that people need to just let the female decide and let the parent decide whether they can do it or not. I think a lot of people are shocked to know that in the US, the pay gap between mothers and non-mothers is greater than the pay gap between men and women.
That's terrible. And what is it? What's the percentage difference?
I don't have it off the top of my head, but it is significant and it's shocking, right? So
shocking.
So you think about that it's that link of once we become parents, and you're talking about people in the boardroom. If you are on an HR team or in a people team, allowing people to talk about their personal lives and being parents, instead of feeling like you have to hide it because you'll lose opportunities, is a massive step to take, even for men. Allowing a man to go coach their kids' soccer team and leaving an hour early will also help the women. And so it's really just an acknowledgement of parenting. And then the third thing for women is the lack of career coaching. So because there are not as many women who have hit the C-suite, it's very difficult for them to find the mentor that will guide them and say, this is how I got there. Try this.
Yeah, I'm going to be your mentor and I'm going to help raise you, because that's what we effectively do as mentors and coaches and leaders. We raise people up around us. That's what we do. We don't keep people boxed down. Everything that you've said there is all about diversity and inclusion.
It's 100%. A lot of what we ask. So we consider ourselves, we've got over 1,500 women on the platform. We consider ourselves their advocate. So we create a 360-degree profile that shows their soft skills and their hard skills so that you can see them as a whole person and not just this linear, like all these experiences on paper. And so when we go to these hiring managers, we say, we need you to think about this job description and consider, what do you really need? Absolutely. Do you need that college degree or do you need that she's got 12 years experience doing this? Somebody who went to marketing 12 years ago in college, it's changed so significantly, it's pointless.
It's irrelevant.
It's irrelevant. And so I think recruiters really could do their best for diversity and inclusion. Equity belongs on the company side as well. But if they could just say, you just need to interview this person. And they may not have that college degree. They may not have that exact maybe they're not experts in Salesforce, but we know they've got the acumen to learn. And I think that way we start allowing people who have not had the same opportunities as your traditional white male to get into the workforce in the positions that they can thrive in.
Absolutely can thrive in. And then in terms of productivity, you know, these females that are returning to work, whether it be on a part-time basis, they will absolutely give it their all because they want to prove themselves. They want to champion their fellow working moms. I mean, I can give you a synopsis that, I mean, up until COVID, 25% of my placements year on year have always been working mums. And I used to have that as my USP. And, you know, I'd attract loads of working parents to me because the way I view it, and that's why I set my business up 16 years ago, is that in the hours that my children are not with me, I'm going to absolutely smash it out of the park. Because I've got no distractions and I need to earn loads of money because they cost a fortune. But I also want to do this for me. I want to be defined by who Leisha is, not just mom, right? And that's where I think that's where the mindset for leaders listening who are potentially discriminating against those who have been out of work, even for a number of years, being the raising children, just stop and think to yourself what skills they actually bring, even from being a parent. Time management, budget management, negotiation, conflict resolution.
That's it. I mean, FedEx has nothing on logistics on a mom.
No.
I mean, a mom can get people 5 different places at the exact same time and still get it done. And you're right. There's a commitment that happens because women are so desperate to still have that multidimensional side of themselves. Once you put them in that role, they get heads down. They're not getting distracted by coffee talk. They're not getting distracted by the water cooler. They put their heads down and get it done. Our biggest, probably our number one customer that really appreciates these moms are tech companies. And I think it's because they are able to think a little more innovatively and really consider what are the skills that are being brought to the table.
Absolutely.
And so I do wish that larger companies would think more innovatively on what the person coming to them looks like. I know they have 20 open roles. They've got to fill them fast, and they start really, trying to streamline or scale that process. But if you do that too much, then you lose out on some incredible talent that's out there and hidden from you.
Do you think sometimes that leaders often put a barrier to entry for return to work mums because they worry that the non-parents may feel that they're being prejudiced by not being given flexible working, for example? So, let's say we've got someone that's chosen to not have children and looks over and says, well, hang on, she's allowed to go at 3 to go and pick her kids up. She's then logging back on when she gets home, but why can't I have that? And then there's the knock-on effect.
And she should. One of the things we talk about with our customers, our clients, is you will be most effective in this remote and this flexible culture that you're going to offer the moms if you measure by goals and not but in seats, is how we call it. And so that person with no kids should be able to leave at 3 and go, if they're a passionate bike rider, go get it done and log back in when your measurement is, did you hit your goals? Yes. And are you upholding the company values? You are? Great.
I love it. We call it bums on seats here, but you can have butts on seats. I'll let you have that. That's a little nuance across the ocean. I think I'm so pleased I brought that up with you, because that's exactly how I then challenge my client if they say that. I say, well, you should be offering inclusivity on flexibility to everybody. Now, of course, COVID has changed that. And I think more leaders now are more receptive because that people have had to work remotely, but that's not the same as flexible working. And that's where we've got this, we need to make sure it's defined in terms of expectation. But that's where culturally, regardless of I mean, I guess our audience is all recruited, and I know you've talked a lot around tech. If you measure output rather than the micromanagement, granular, how many calls are you doing, you're creating then this very grown up, empowered culture where people will want to log in and get the job done, because you're creating this kind of embracing, we know that you'll do the job regardless of where you are.
You also kind of weed out the people that are only performing because you're sitting there, pushing them. And that's exhausting from a manager role. Is that really where your brain needs to be, and driving that person to perform versus thinking strategically and how you can improve the output for everyone? Yeah. And so that the people that are just kind of making it through, they'll fall off because they won't be able to hit their goals.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you. So, I mean, bearing in mind across our global audience, which is really very exciting for me as the host, we have a lot of leaders and those who are aspiring to be leaders. So what can they do right now today to ensure that they create a culture where women want to return to work there if they've already left to go and have children, and make sure they're not, that's it, bye-bye, I'm not coming back, but also attract those who have the potential to reach the top table, if that's what they want to do, of course. We want.
Yeah. So it's definitely like there's the flexibility. So that's flexibility of hours or location or just in culture. If I have to just define your flexibility and stick with it, Flexibility of culture means that I can run out, take the kid to the dentist, and I don't have this guilt on my shoulders of, gosh, I've got to get back to the office in 5 minutes or somebody's going to be upset. And so define what your flexibility is. Ask your parents how their kids are doing. You may not care. It's okay if you don't care. But what you're doing is you're establishing a culture that says, I acknowledge there's this other part of you that is very valuable to you and very important. And I will not judge you on that, on the fact that you have kids or on the fact that you've got responsibilities that are significant outside of work. And once you normalize that, then people feel like they can thrive in both. They don't have to hide that they have kids because maybe then they won't get the projects.
Yeah, no, I think that's really important. And I know that off camera we talked a lot around mental health and well-being. So I think that's something that we should talk about, because certainly as we record this in May 2021, when this goes live, you know, most of the sort of developed world anyway will probably be out of a formal lockdown and we'll probably be all mingling again. So we're probably less inclined to talk. Let's hope so. Please, from my mouth to God's ears and all that. Where do you think, you know, there's a disconnect with people talking about it? Because I think that, you know, and I know that we did chat about this offline, that there's been a lot of stress and strain put on females during COVID and since COVID, potentially more so, and I'm being deliberately a bit sort of generic here, but more so than potentially dads. Well, I mean, I'm saying this as a single mum. I'm single, solitary parent, so I can say that from my own perspective, that it all comes on me, and the pressure on me is immense. So, what are you seeing from your audience?
Yeah, so it's for every 2.2 men that's returned to the workforce, only one woman has.
Right.
So there are still, as of May 2021, there are still many women. Some of that is because of school closures. A lot of that is because of the extra pressures that are going on, the support systems of maybe their mom helped with childcare, or they had a community around them that helped with childcare. Childcare is expensive. So if those support systems have been uprooted or locked out, then, and they have to figure out how to pay for childcare, it's a tough situation. In the US, we still have about a third of 4th and 8th graders that are not back in school. Wow. But the result of that too is that women are spending on average 3+ more hours than men on housework, schoolwork, with the kids. So childcare and housework. And that is, there are a lot of concerns about, will the balance right itself once people go back into the office. And then there's also valid concerns of, once women do pull back and say, okay, this remote stuff is good, like this is helping me, also, do they then lose their presence in the office? And so we have to figure out, I think offices, as they decide how they want to return, and if they say they're going hybrid or if they're saying they're going remote, is being very intentional to make sure that the women are still, there's still an inclusion aspect, really, for any minority that doesn't have an equal voice in the room, that their voice can still be heard across Zoom, across Teams, whatever tool you use.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. It's that inclusivity, but being part of a culture and actually being part of the dialogue every single day, because that's where it happens.
It's that part of the dialogue. That's so well said. Yep.
Not just the work. It's not just the weekly updates. It's that dialogue every single day. And I think, you know, there were a lot of reports shared. I think actually LinkedIn was really good at sharing this kind of news story, that, you know, there were increased numbers of females who felt totally quashed during the pandemic, because it seemed to fall on them a lot more because of the reasons you've given. I think it was exactly the same in the United Kingdom and Europe as it was in America. And I think, you know, I can only speak from my personal experience, but I guess I'm in a unique situation in that I'm the only parent here. But I think from my own personal observations, conversations that I've had with clients and candidates, that is the reality, that, you know, that percentage you've given. So, you know, 1 out of every 2.2 males is just, we need to shift the balance so that equality hasn't gone back 50 years. I think that was what, you know, one report said, we've gone back to the 50s.
That's exactly right. And frankly, our economy will suffer, because you take all of those wage earners out of the economy. I mean, that's a lot of money for restaurants and groceries and the kids' activities. Yeah. And so our economy needs these women back in. And there's also bad male on male behavior. There's a lot of times where a male will want to get more involved. He'll recognize his wife needs his help, And somebody will be like, well, you've got a wife for that. Why isn't she doing that? You know, there's still some very male on male behavior that isn't great about parenting or about equal share. You know, what happens to a man's career when they have a kid? Can they take the paternity leave that's allowed for them? Or will people be like, what do you do? You're actually taking that?
Yeah.
Nobody takes paternity.
I think it's, you hint on, I mean, misogyny has become, you know, one of the hottest topics, certainly in my house, because my eldest daughter's, you know, very outspoken in social justice aspects, you know, Black Lives Matter, and, you know, her friends who all, you know, they're non-binary and pansexual, you know, there's a total shift. And those who are listening who know that they need to attract Generation Z, your 16 to 24-year-olds now, if you are misogynistic and you are not embracing your working parents, you are going to alienate yourself from an entire future generation of people coming to work for you, because they will want to know about, what's your flexible working arrangement? What do I do if I have a child? You know, what are you doing to help those that currently work for you? They're not going to be interested in your latest trip to Ibiza, or, you know, how much champagne on a Friday.
Yeah. That's it. I think we were still children of the baby boomers that were very driven, very career oriented, and I think some of the younger generations have realized there's more of a balance that can be obtained, and they're going to ask for it. If you don't have it, you can double their salary. You're still going to lose them quickly.
Yeah.
So modernize.
Yeah, modernize and lose misogyny. That's what I would like to say as well. Well, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you join us today, because I know that as we record this now, it's towards the end of my workday, and your workday is just starting. But we will make sure when we share this episode that everyone connects, because I think your business sounds absolutely wonderful, and I don't know of anything like it in the UK. So please connect to Delphine, follow Boulo. We want to change the way that females are perceived in the marketplace. And bang on cue, my daughter's about to walk through the front door, which is just hilarious, isn't it, that we've been talking about
perfect timing. I love it.
Perfect timing. Thank you so much for joining us today. We really appreciate it.
I'm so glad to be here.
Thanks, Del.